Scott on the phone?
Scott is also on the phone.
Sorry about that.
So we are nearly 1 year into our financial process, I suppose, since our CFO resigned unexpectedly almost 1 year ago. Our team has worked very hard to get us to the point that we're at today. We drafted this fiscal year's budget last year without, unfortunately, knowing a whole lot of information and not having very good historical information. Today I'm very pleased to present our mid-year review, which I think is a really good news story for the district. We anticipate ending this fiscal year with nearly $2.5 million surplus in revenue, which we will be coming back to the board asking for specific projects for airport improvements that we put on hold until we get through our audits. And we'll be briefing a little bit of an update on the audits here shortly. But I just wanted to highlight a few things very quickly on the mid-year review, and I'm happy to answer any questions the directors may have. We anticipated about $7.5 million in revenue for this fiscal year. We expect to actually end the year at about $10.5 million. And this is largely due to some unanticipated revenue that we've received from a wind company for a lot of work that we're doing to improve airport infrastructure for the wind tower placements that they're putting on the west side of Mojave. We also, I'd like to highlight, have sold a significant amount of fuel so far this year. So for the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we've almost hit our fuel budget. About 96% of our entire fuel budget we've already achieved. So thanks a lot to Harold and his crew for their efforts in keeping everyone fueled very quickly and keeping everyone coming back. We also have an unanticipated amount of $125,000 in an FAA grant that we did not expect to receive, which we will be getting in by the end of June. This is for our pump house improvements, which improves a lot of the sprinkler systems in the facilities that not only the airport buildings, but a lot of our tenant buildings as well. So those are just a few highlights.
That's $125,000.
$125,000.
And that's a 10% match.
It's 50%. So the pump house improvement project is $250,000.
Okay.
The grant is 50%. On the expense side, the only thing that we really under budgeted pretty significantly was fuel, and that's only because of the unanticipated fuel sales that we've had so far this year.
You also under budgeted revenue.
Exactly.
So it's a little misleading. It's
right.
a little that report's just a tad misleading. It makes it look like, well, we've spent $700,000 more than we should have. That's not really true. We had $800,000 more in fuel revenue than we anticipated.
Exactly.
So it's all how you frame it and how you look at it. So
Exactly.
we probably need to discuss how we disclose that.
Okay. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Are there any specific questions on this mid-year review? Revenues, expenses, what we anticipate for the year?
All right, and then just quickly touch on under G&A, we're participating in just under 100,000 growth there, so that's mostly what?
So there were a few items that we under budgeted under the expenses. Workers' comp was one that I under budgeted quite significantly. The health insurance was another one, and when we had our last open enrollment, there were a number of us in the administrative side that included dependents, which just wasn't anticipated at the time. So our health insurance, we will probably end the year at around $150,000, and we budgeted around $80,000 under G&A, under the G&A staff. Telephone was another one that we under budgeted pretty significantly. We had about $40,000, telephone and communications, internet, everything else is included under that. We had about $40,000 that we anticipated. We've already hit almost $40,000, so we'll expect to double that. And that's mostly because as we've gone through a lot of the financial cleanup, we've discovered that a lot of the prior expenses had been paid by credit card, and we're now cleaning all of that up and just hadn't been accounting for it appropriately. It had been on the books, but just not in the right categories. So that was the primary reason for a couple of these that were under budgeted.
We've had discussions with our auditors, and their position remains the same as far as when they anticipate that they'll be complete. They originally said August, and they have not moved off of that estimate at this time. We, however, believe that our part of it will be done before the end of March, and as soon as we make sure our part is done and off to them, we will respectfully and politely put pressure on them to accelerate their completion. So really that's about all we have to say about the audit progress at this time. We feel we're making good progress.
Are you getting any additional help or still doing?
The only additional help is that Karina's picked up some of the tasks that I was doing that took time away from my audit work, and I've added more hours. It's accelerated more hours.
Yeah, but you were saying you're gonna be ready by 1 April, so that's,
Yes.
that's within the kind of the targets we gave you anyway. so
Correct.
That should be fine. Okay. Board members, any other questions?
What you just received, the recommendation is focus on considerable more of Karina's time, and Mike has been given basically freedom to do as required to make sure that our portion is complete by the end of March, which accelerates our deliverable to the accountants by 30 days.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not super enthused with what the accountant's saying. However, it's a little late to change horses midstream here. I think we let them let this run its course, keep the pressure on as you suggested, and then we can do an assessment at the end as to whether we use them again or we go another direction based on how good a job they do and how it is. But I hate to prejudge it at this point. Sounds a little longer than it needs to be, but maybe there's external factors there. So, all right. Anybody else? Anything else?
Grace will be this Saturday at the Grace Chapel on 15th Street West in Lancaster. It's a very large church, and they expect a very large turnout. That's at 10 a.m. At Grace Chapel, February 7th, this Saturday. Our January 17th Plain Crazy Saturday with Wasabi, Elliot Seaman and Jennifer Whaley was a great success. Those kids are so enthusiastic, and it's great to hear them talk. I mean, when you live back in Michigan and you're looking at all the places that you could go to work, and he wants to come to Mojave, he comes to Mojave because that's where everything is happening that is exciting to him.
It's warmer in Michigan.
And it's warmer. Yes, if the groundhog saw his shadow yesterday, I'll take 6 more weeks of today. Boy, what a great day. So it was a fun time, and it is great to be around these young kids. It gives you not only hope for the future, but it makes you young again. Our February 21st, Plain Crazy Saturday, will feature Douglas Castleman, aviation artist. And these are just a couple of paintings that he's done. This happens to be Rob Laughlin's Comanche. And when I posted this on Facebook, he was very excited to see it because he's moved to Midland, Texas. But we especially like this picture. It's a Corsair and a Zebro. But I do like action paintings. And I think he did one of your 140 also. Yeah, and he did Al's F-86.
Where does he live?
He's actually down in the LA area, and
He comes to
up
Plain Crazy and sells paintings.
every month.
Winter,
When I
summer.
first met him was, 10 or 15
Nice.
years ago at a Gathering of Eagles event. And I saw his work, and I thought, my God, this kid's great. And he went to college, has a degree in fine art, but he always loved aviation, and he thought, I'm just going to combine the two. Now, he does landscapes also, but I don't see how he can do a landscape and not have an airplane up there somewhere. But I think,
Robert Taylor,
yeah, exactly,
Royal Air
exactly.
Force, World War II.
Yeah,
Got the-
but he's a member of the Aviation Artists Society, and he's just going to tell us what inspires him and kind of the step-by-step process of doing a painting. And we had Mike Machat here before, and it was very interesting to hear him talk. So he does oils, watercolors, even pencil drawings. So come and see us February 21st. Doug Castleman's a great guy. Thank you for your time.
Last week that our supervisor spoke to an organization in Tehachapi and discussed the possibility of moving the animal shelter from Mojave Airport to Tehachapi. Had a little conversation back and forth. One of the reasons he said that they wanted to move it was the airport didn't want it, which I found out is not correct. And the location is hard to find.
That's very true. I go walking at lunchtime, and it's probably at least once a week, somebody stops and says, how do we get to the end?
Yeah.
Well, that's related to another thing. And anyway, I used to go out there every week and take pictures, and I always had to wait around for a while for them to take care of the people that found it. But the reason that the airport wants to move it is a very good reason. It's in a prime location for a hangar. And Stu and I talked about it after all this happened, and probably a good location for it would be over by the other county buildings. That would, you put all the county stuff in one place. Now, this is kind of academic because the county doesn't have any money right now, especially since the oil thing, which helps everybody except taxpayers. Anyway, the other problem, the thing about trying to find it, you look at the signs on the airport. We need a sign policy on this airport, or a design criteria or something like that. A lot of the buildings have good signs, but a lot of when you drive in, the signs look like something left over from a political campaign. They look like yard signs, and there's no uniformity. They're hard to read. If you come in from 58, you do see signs to the animal shelter, but you can drive over half the airport before you finally curve around and find it. So I'd like to suggest a committee, and I'd be more than happy to get involved in it, so we could get some expert discussion with Caltrans or somebody like that, the county planning, on developing the sign policy. One of the things that now there may be businesses that don't want a sign, that's fine, but military bases all seem to have a sign on the corners that has little signs pointing in all different directions. That would be good out here. And so anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out and see what we could do with it. A bunch of people from Southeast Kern went to a meeting at Cal City. Department of Defense has got some money for communities impacted by BRAC now, before anybody panics. We're not impacted by BRAC. This came out of a request from the Indian Wells Valley Airport District, which this money is also available to communities that are extensively impacted economically by a military installation, which China Lake is. It's the major business up there. And believe it or not, there's money available to use in communities to broaden your economic base. So you're not, Kern County, 30% of our tax revenue comes from oil. The other 30 or 40 from rag. And anyway, we started the process. We had representatives from most of the communities around here. We had Kim Mavers from Gavia, DOD, Ryan was there, and we got the thing started. The county administrative office, Teresa Hitchcock, was there from the CAO's office, and they'll take the ball and start the process of developing this grant application. And the gentleman who ran the meeting from Department of Defense, which has an office up in Sacramento, said, "You guys already qualify." They'd already kind of it's kind of like buying a car, and you get your credit pre-qualified. And I said something about, do we need help from our congressman, for support? And he says, no. He said, there's no competition unless you really screw up. So the process has started, and within a few months we could be seeing some of the communities around there. We need to start thinking about what we want to use it for. And Doug and I, on the way back, talked about our primary need, which is housing in this community. We've got some of the brightest people in the world, and they got to commute from someplace else to get here to work. And I think a lot of them would like to walk and ride their bikes and maybe even their skateboards to work. So anyway, it's a good positive thing. It was another example of how the folks up here in Southeast Kern work together. We have people from Ridgecrest, Cal City, Tehachapi. We didn't have anybody from Rosamond Boron, but it's another step forward.
Okay, thank you. Evaluation with the NVGs of the LED lights versus the standard lights, and they are better. The LEDs are better from the standpoint of night vision goggles, not shutting them down as much. And
Is
to the
this-
naked eye, they look
Is
about the
this
same.
runway lighting, taxiway lighting, or what?
Runway and taxiway. So the new runway, the newly refurbished runway 0422 is all LEDs. And there's a difference when you look at the other runway. And I think that one of the things that we talked about the last meeting is they're gonna be updating LEDs on some of the other runways.
Okay, we talked about that years ago too, just from a savings cost of power.
So LEDs in the PAPIs would probably also be useful. They'd be just as bright to the naked eye and not as blinding to other devices.
They're more night vision friendly. Interesting.
All right, okay, your chair recognizes Mr. Witt.
F-18s will be operating out of the airport, it looks like 1, maybe 2 weekends per month, beginning this coming weekend, I'm told. And it could be 2 to 5 airplanes, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, twice a day, operating in front of 62 hangar 62. Hangar 62, 68. 68.
Yeah, 68.
Cool.
Can we arrange
And,
that for Plane Crazy?
For the first weekend, we'll probably be keeping the tower open, and we will have a fire crew in with a minimum of 3 firefighters.
Is this to support that operation?
That's correct.
And are we paying the cost of that, offsetting it with fuel?
The first weekend, we are evaluating to see if it's required. The client hasn't given us a requirement yet. If it's just 2 airplanes, it probably won't be. If it's a whole covey, it probably will be. And we will adjust the cost of fuel to accommodate the cost of labor.
All right, thank you.
All right, any final